setup is not really hard for selling.
You know,
It's a little better. You know, you're not.
but it's not called Benelli, it's.
Yeah, they.
Oh.
Yeah, get it set up.
We're running, so I think I'm just like.
Minute and a half.
Not bad.
They had them on sale.
Hi, sir. How are you?
Man, giving away.
You can sit back and write 3 years now.
Here, point. So we left here. at 5 o'clock. He's like. Years ago, like. It's only 3 foot. It's only like 2 foot. Then we got on over, found like 4 foot of water. All of a sudden we're getting close. We're all these lights come on.
Dad, though, you
Yes, sir. So then we start moving around, we get over the corner and we're in like 2 feet of water.
More than 3
Pushing the boat. It's about shooting lights, so we're trying to get out.
Yeah,
The game over.
We're just in between. We're in between people. The ducks are flying.
You're shooting them, you know.
No, they were just, the ducks were so like.
I didn't expect the last
Not at either way we got. Found a good spot. I think.
Listen to the.
Get over there. It's hard to beat the local, where we go with. Van Buren. It's pretty good, but you just gotta get in there and get set.
You had your fuse.
I got the Maxis and used it.
Meetings today.
He does. When I started hunting with him,
Except April.
Disaster.
he
Woman.
That one's great.
I'll be like, shoot,
But he won't.
That much difference.
like, you're not throwing that shot up there.
Here.
And then I kept on field.
And I had.
Oh, it's bad.
Then we went to Kansas.
Bought back,
Well, up here, till then.
now I bought back 3 months.
Get the party.
You wanna be here? Right, you guys ready? Donnie, you guys ready?
Pump or automatic?
Oh. We're gonna go ahead and get started this evening with the City of Centerton Planning Commission for December 6th, 2022, our last meeting of 2022 with a roll call.
Jeff Sapart. Joey Engel. Devin Murphy. Jerry Harris. Greg Langford. Tony Davis. Brandon Swoboda. John Sessoms.
Here.
Ben Lewis.
Here. All right, first thing on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from 11:15 of 22. I did see one change in the second paragraph. Joey was leading the meeting and it says he was absent, so I was absent last meeting, so that updated. I saw. If nobody else saw anything else, then I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
John, a second. Motion in a second. Does anyone oppose? All right. Thing on the agenda this evening is the ratification of admin approvals. There's 2. There's a track split on Rainbow Farm Road and a home occupation for crafts. Are there any questions or comments from any of the commissioners or staff? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion to approve the admin approvals.
This is Tony, I make a motion to approve the ratification of the administrative.
Motion in a second. Is there anyone that's opposed? All right, under old business, there were 2 items that were tabled and both those items were withdrawn by the applicant. So we will move on to new business. Under new business, we're going to actually make a change tonight and B will become A. So we're going to review subdivision 1912 Bliss Street Homes, the final plat. It's on the north side of Bliss Street between Gamble and Zachary. It is zoned RTHD, just over 8 acres, 46 lots and 3 non-buildable lots. Is the applicant here to give us a quick overview?
I'm Jake Chavis, Bates and Associates. Everything's done, bonds are in place. I just handed them to Donna. She's gonna check them for them. There's one outstanding engineering comment that we need to fix. Alan's gonna go take a look at it tomorrow. I had a conversation with him just right before the meeting. Hopefully we can get that fixed this week and Alan's recommendation to you, I believe, would be to make that a recommendation of or a recommendation of conditional approval. Final plat, and we are more than okay with that. And I'm here for any questions if you have any.
Donna, do you want to give us a staff overview?
Yes, so this is a twin home development, so each structure is being built with 2 units, but the units are each on their own lot. It is 8.15 acres. The covenants have been approved with some minor comments. There were some waivers approved with the preliminary plat. There is 30 feet of right of way being dedicated along Bliss, and the little section of Gamble that there is access to. The bonds have been approved by staff, and as noted, they were provided in a written format here at the meeting. The drainage report has been approved by engineering. There is one comment remaining on site, which we'll be checking out very shortly. In general, the plans, both the final plat and the record drawings are in excellent shape. Any comments remaining are very minor. In good shape, so we recommend approval with that one comment. We will look at tomorrow.
There's a ponding issue on Bliss Street. The water's not getting off the road. So they need to get that water off, whether how adjust that box, put another curb inlet. Or cut inlet to the, but it really just has, Bliss Street has to drain, because right now we can't take it until that happens. They're working on ways of getting that done without, expedited, but that's why it has to be conditional, because we approve it and make them go back and fix it. So it's conditional on them fixing and getting the water off of the street.
And it's in this area right here.
Yes. That there's 6 pipes going underneath Bliss. And we turn that into a box because we added the outlet, and it's just right there where it's not getting back off of Bliss now.
So that is the one side issue, and just notes in the covenants to note that the fire access road and the pond will be maintained by the POA. With those couple items, we recommend approval.
Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion to approve subdivision 1912. The Bliss Street twin homes with the one contingency on the correction on Bliss.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve subdivision 1912 with the outstanding comment of eliminating the ponding on Bliss Street at the storm box.
Second. Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Thanks, Jake.
Thank you guys, and I appreciate you letting me skip ahead of the,
No problem.
and I've got another planning commission meeting to catch tonight.
Good luck getting there. All right, now we're going to move on to our public hearing this evening, and the public hearing is for code amendments to Title IX Streets and Sidewalks, Title 16 Drainage and Flood, and Stormwater Management and Drainage Manual. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for the code amendments to Title IX.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? You want to just give us a quick overview? How do you want to handle this tonight?
See, I can probably give you a quick overview on what's changed, and I'm not sure how much public comment there is. Just with the general summary on them. It's Title IX was updated again for the right of way widths and streets match the master street plan. Addressing is matched up for how 911 addressing works. Clarify some certain things on what's allowed, so that get rid of some ambiguity in that. The drainage manual, added It's one of the new ones that I have on here is that a lot of it, the NFIP standards kind of clarified so it matches better with the 2021 Arkansas standard than what it was before. And then the drainage manual adds some restrictions. I can go through all of it, but the big things that changed was our first one was from the last time we talked about it, obviously all the driveway notations about putting a slope on that, those are completely out of it. Those aren't in it at all. I sent a copy of all these out to 50 email addresses for various engineers, developers, contractors, builders. Had some comments come back. I met with, I think, 3 or 4 of those people. One of the ones they had was, I had a limitation on the time of concentration for design. There's certain scenarios where it's necessary to have that in there. So I got rid of that hard limit. So there's more flexibility in the design. Also, the drainage manual changed. When it was updated in 19, they had a language for tertiary swales being on a 6-to-1 slope. Those are really just the slopes that are between your 2 houses on the sides, not the ones that run behind. Those aren't tertiary swales, those are full open channels and require the open channel design. The way it was written was the 6-to-1 slope for those rear yard swales, for the tertiary swales, not just the ones getting to the front to back. So I've updated that to where it still says the 4-to-1 is allowed for those ones on the side. But added the explicit note, that 6-to-1 is required for those. Is the max slope on the rear yard open trails. Also state how open swales are honestly discouraged. Or with blatantly saying that, obviously you would encourage those, rear yard drains are encouraged. But also make sure that if they want to put rear yard drains in, they put them in easements so they can maintain them. But the city is not going to take those over. Those are still have to be maintained by the POA, same as a pond would. They also asked for clarification on how I say there's some projects where it doesn't impact downstream properties if water releases a bit quicker. Well, it doesn't meet SWIP requirements, so they either have to have some kind of detention or pre-treatment. I guess the or wasn't as well defined, so it was reworded, so it's, you don't have to do both, just one or the other to meet the intent of SWIP. With that clarification, same with the HGL design for storm pipes, as the or wasn't clearly defined in there, so I reworded it for them for that one. And also on the request, one of the ones that was being more restrictive is for the design storm pipe. It has to have capacity of the design. So it's not flowing underhead during the design storm event. It's a bigger issue on the 10-year storms than on the 25, 50, the larger ones, which we designed for our collectors and arterials. So there is a exception for those pipes flowing under head pressure. That should still be allowable for those higher ones, but not for the 10. So I added that. I was completely removing that exception. I put it back in, just make sure when it's for the design storms that are higher. The only other changes that were made, besides those, last time we talked about it was in Title 16, and those are all just the NFIP standards. The language out of that came directly out of the 2021 update from State Arkansas.
So we talked a little bit last time about the pond slope. Is that in here anymore?
I don't believe I changed that. I think I got rid of that note based on the conversation from last time.
Then maintenance buffer, I know we talked about a little bit too.
The maintenance bond or
Buffer.
Buffer.
The on top of the pond bank.
so that got rid of the stipulation for that was taken out as well, as we talked, but it's still in there for open swales. There was no guideline on that slope, so that was put in there on a 10-to-1, so it is still a maintenance slope for those open swales. So that has a slope, but I got rid of the ones for the pond.
Okay.
What
is your 9024 0204 I update storm requirements for the 25-year to comply with the drainage manual?
So that is half street improvements for our collectors and arterial streets. So it was saying if you put the culverts that go underneath the road, it said it has to hold a 10-year storm. All of our collectors and arterials are designed for the 25. So it no longer says 10-year storm event for your half street improvements. It says a 25 to match the drainage manual
The drainage manual has always stated the 25.
for the collectors and arterials. Yep. So for local ones, but we're not doing the half street improvements for our local streets.
Well, thank you for considering what we talked about last time.
So.
I didn't want to go backwards.
Correct, and I'd have to go back those here. I'm pretty sure what I told you at the last meeting was I took that stuff out based on the conversation that. There's no point in me trying to present it. I'm not gonna get support to make an ordinance anyway, so I just took it out. I will ensure that before that ordinance is
I
written.
skimmed it. I don't see anything in there. I just wanted
I
to.
think I got rid of it all. And I'm not sure you have access to it. It's gonna be in either section 5 or section 8 of
What
the.
are you adding for the BLE?
Where are you looking? I'm sorry.
That's the last. Second sentence on the last, heading, Title 16. Plans to which this applies equals adds and any additional areas identified in the BLE data.
Oh, so the BLE is actually a more accurate than the regular FEMA NFIP maps. So some of those show areas that are in special flood hazard areas that aren't on those maps. So if you're identified in that one,
It's just unstudied areas, right? The BLE only cover unstudied areas?
We cover studied and unstudied.
yeah, I think it's both. Just give you more accurate data in the studied areas. So
The impression it was just for unstudied areas.
there's some it gets better data on. It was like what the actual flood elevations are gonna be as you go, because the other ones are just simple cross sections in the channel.
Right.
So it actually gives you a better sense. It's more fine tuned, honestly, with that map. So some of those areas that aren't on the regular FEMA maps are on here. That's just saying, if you're in those areas, you need to add. You need to do the, apply for a permit.
Now, which one did you want me to, the drainage manual or?
It's either 5 or 8 is gonna be the on design. I'm not sure which one, just to confirm that you have the drainage manual, section 5 or 8.
We'll start with 5.
It's just to confirm that what I told Joey is true, that it is taken out from our first meeting.
It's fine. And if it's in here, we can strike it. I trust you.
Any other questions or comments from any of the other commissioners?
I'm not gonna go on like last time.
Yeah, it's still 5 foot maintained as it was before,
So I made no changes to that.
3 to 1.
Okay.
I knew it was 3 to 1. I wasn't really clear on the 5 to 1. I put a slope on the 5 to 1. On the 5 foot.
But, yeah.
It's in section 5.
So we are open to the public. If there's anyone from the public that wishes to speak, have any questions or comments in regards to the proposed changes, we would ask that you come to the podium. Would you state your name and address and any comments or questions, concerns that you might have?
Which line are we on in the? Okay.
We are
A.
on the public hearing for the code amendments.
6A.
Gentlemen,
Weary?
John Wary with Half Associates. So we're talking about the drainage manual, drainage, right?
Yeah. Are you, yeah, you got stuff to add?
I have some questions
Okay.
and I don't have everything with me. I brought your summary.
I'd say we can pull them up. If you have specific items you're.
If you want a specific section, I can pull it up. I mean, if you want a specific section of the drainage manual, I have it all on here and I can pull it up.
And I'll go through this summary. I guess my first question about, showing the exact driveway locations and subdivisions. And Alan and I have spoken about all these already. My question is, the builder gonna be held to put in the driveway in those locations? And if he is, I think that's a very difficult thing to do.
So if you open section 1, I did update that.
Section 1.
Yes.
Created a lot of discussion amongst us too.
I have more questions on how that's gonna be enforced if that is the.
We're not the enforcers, John. I think our compromise was there are some areas of the city where some driveways were put in place where they shouldn't have been, that interfere with drainage. And so this does allow us to at least look at those. And so that's the reason that I think we came to an agreement that there could be some language in there about it.
That there's some latitude where the actual driveway will go.
We're not the enforcers.
With that, those.
We can ensure that they won't, we can try to ensure that there won't be interference. How's that?
So when the plat comes before the commission will look at the driveway location on the plat.
I mean, it would be, well, the prelim plat, yeah.
I don't want to get in the situation.
I don't know what.
So I just didn't want to get in a situation where down the road, builder wants to change the floor plan because the property owner wants to change, put the guy over here, and he can't do it because.
We're not the enforcers, John. But it will be looked at, yes.
All
Well,
right,
I agree with you. I think if there's no detriment, then you should be able to move.
and one of my suggestions, Alan, it might make more sense to try to put something to require that the utility infrastructure be located on or near or somewhere, some proximity to a property line. That's what the problem is.
This is the utilities or the storm drains? The inlets?
Those are something that are not on the property line where they should be.
So where the problems usually lie are with throat extensions for your storm boxes, the ADA ramps with the flares. So what was added after our conversation was I added that alterations to the locations of driveways as requested by the builder and reviewed by Public Works, because they're the ones giving you your grading permits as it is for those. So it's just, here's that plan, here's what we want. So they just have to request and then review it and they will give it to you. That
And then
variance, kind of saying, if you want to move it, here's him, show that it's not going to be an issue with if you relocate it. So if we want to say, oh, we want to move it to from here, you're a corner lot on the side street, that might not be approved. You want to go from the left side or the right side when you're in the middle of a quarter-mile block and there's nothing in the area. I don't see an issue being with that, and they'll be like, go for it. But also other developers, they put the curb cuts in as they're building to a corner of the curb. So some of that is a bit more difficult to change those too, or as you're doing them. So, but it does give you that option where ask for your driveway permits, grading permits for Public Works. If you want to change it, they'll review it and approve it that way.
and when
Which
we're,
permit is that?
Building permit?
Public Works?
What works with the grading permit? Each lot gets a grading permit.
Oh,
It has to show where that driveway
oh,
is.
okay.
and then also when planning staff looks at the plans, we look to see, is there gonna be conflict with the driveway? So that's why we do ask if we see, an inlet smack dab in the middle of the lot.
You just look
A lot
at,
of times we'll make a comment to say, can you please move that to a property line so it doesn't? Or if there's one that is a smaller lot, that there might be an issue, we usually send a comment saying, where are you gonna put your driveway?
he's just looking just for the variance, the ability to move it when they're looking to build. After you buy it, the plan was to put it on the left side, and now you bought the home, you want them to build on the right. How easy is that for them to change, I assume? Right, yeah, so I mean, that way it's just when you pull that permit from Public Works, say, we're gonna flip it to here, and there'll be, case, over there, now you might be a little close to that inlet. That's where, or you're gonna have to put that bend in it, that they'll approve from case to case.
And the Public Works approves the grading permit with providing the driveway, then the building inspector will also approve the building permit with that same location. That's his assumption.
Building permit would have to show that too. Right?
Okay. All right, that's enough. You guys have already beat this up. I didn't realize that. The other question I have, and Alan, we talked about this. You said you were gonna eliminate that 20-minute time of concentration.
Yes, that's gone.
Well, that's nowhere in the revisions will there be a time of concentration requirement on your design storm. Or limit, I should say.
So where the rational method was confined to that 30-minute, that part was completely gone. The sheet flow being limited to the 20-minute or 300 feet kind of thing, that is still on there, but has the exception where on a case to case, if you show the data that is that flat of a site with no rivulets, that, you know, a 30, a 40-minute makes sense. Something that'd be reviewed case by case, but has to be requested to be above that.
As long as there's some latitude.
Yep, that was put in there as well.
Um, Section 8, the hydraulic grade line, that's probably the biggest one. We spoke historically in the city of Centerton, your design storm hydraulic grade line will always be 2 feet below the ground surface, which was defined as the rim. That's the way we always looked at it. So now we're gonna push that down to the gutter.
That's 2.5.
What's that?
That's 2.5.
That's 2.5. And every time we do this, first of all, if the hydraulic grade line was at the gutter, the system handles the storm. So we push it down a foot to give us the factor of safety. And we push it down another foot to give us more factor of safety. And we push it down 6 inches to give us more factor of safety. It's going to cause the storm systems cost to increase. I don't know if I can quantify that at this point, but they will.
Alan, there's obviously some sort of latitude on that too. What if you don't have 2 foot of cover on your?
So the way it's spec'd is before it says it's gotta be 2 foot below during the design storm or as approved by city engineer. So that 2 foot, when it defined what the ground is, it's not in that section. But if you look in the definitions later on, it says the ground is top of ground, rim of cover, or gutter, whichever's less, is where it was defined elsewhere. Because I've been reviewing it that way, I added that definition again there. To where that's where it was defined elsewhere in the manual, so I was copied and put it back in. The other thing is I add the clarification as what else is or as approved. The other one I look at is, again, as long as it's in that gutter in the 100, I've been taking that as good enough.
So what was your other thing here? You linked it back to like an exception for the 25-year storm.
So that goes to the pipe capacity. So if your design storm that has an estimation of 10 cubic feet per second flowing through, the pipe has to have a capacity of 10 CFS itself. Before there's that stipulation with the hydraulic grade line, is if your pipe only had a capacity of 9, that if it wasn't surcharging during the design storm event, it would be approved. And now
You're saying the 25 has to be contained within the pipe?
10.
Yeah. So there's no surcharge outside of the pipe.
There's no
10.
There's no pressure systems, and to Alan's point,
Yeah, I
you know, a certain pipe at a certain slope will handle a certain stormwater. So it's considered flowing full. You can continue to add water in it, and it just pushes the hydraulic grade line out, so it'll handle more. And I think that's what Alan's saying. He doesn't want the design storm to be ever under pressure. Which is, and that's kind of contrary to what we've always done.
right.
If you got a 6 foot deep storm pipe and your hydraulic grade line's 2 feet below the rim or gutter, that pipe's under pressure. And that's very common. That's a very common way of designing storm systems.
I don't think I've ever designed one that wasn't.
I agree. And I think to Alan's point is, this is more conservative. And I know that we're criticizing conservative, but at some point you get to where you just continue to add bigger pipes and bigger pipes and bigger pipes.
What's the issue?
Big things, I mean, it says 4 times else there in the design that the pipes have to have that design capacity. And then there's one small section where here's this other exception just in case. Where it contradicts what it has the 4 other times. And again, like you said, it is the conservative one, which I'm only here to benefit the community with that, doing the conservative one.
Outside of the manual. Is that all you're trying to clean up, or have there been issues?
There's only been one where on the design storm, it didn't have capacity at design. There's other ones where when it comes to final, when they were installed a little flatter and then didn't have that capacity. But then it meets that exception, so it still meets the intent. But the whole thing is when then that design to have that extra in there for the design, because it's getting all for safety to protect everyone else there. Because you think for these design storm events, it's the 10-year storm event. We've had 8 of them this year. So,
Well, that's true, but that's kind of irrelevant. Unless one happens while the system's trying to handle the one that's. If you have the 10-year storm every month, that's. Each time the system does a 10-year storm, it just gets them more frequently.
yeah, and that's where I'm looking at, trying to handle that, so you have that protection, because that means the 25-year storm, we've had 2 or 3 of them this year already, right? Where they're already not sized for that. So we're having more issues with the ponding.
The current code keeps it 2 feet under the rim. Under the gutter.
I think
That's the-
previously,
That's almost,
changing that,
that's very rarely.
clarify.
Yeah, I'm clarifying what the or as approved would be.
The previous
It's 2 foot
engineer was considered. 2-foot hydraulic
from the rim.
As they designed a storm system
We're talking about a half a foot here.
12 years, it was 2 feet from the rim.
We're talking about an extra half foot safety factor on a 2 foot safety factor.
And also, as long as the hydraulic grade line criteria was met, the capacity of the pipe could exceed the design.
Because
Both of
you're
those,
not coming out of the ground. Because you're not coming out of the ground at that point.
well, yeah, you're at least 2 feet below the ground, but theoretically. But those things combined, will, like I said, they'll increase the. We can move on. I know people have other things they want to talk about tonight. That's all I had on the. I've been on this other. Line, I'll come up in a little bit. On street.
That's now too.
This is all together.
What's all together? Okay, I did have one question on that then, if I could, on Title IX. 9501. I don't have all this in front of me. But it seems like that the driveway spacing on an arterial or collector. The speed limits were below 40 miles an hour was 250 feet.
Yes.
Then it went to say that the driveway spacing on commercial was 440. Well, if you have commercials on an arterial less than 40 miles an hour, would the spacing be 250 or 440?
Sorry, rephrase that.
Sorry.
If you have,
If I recall, the driveway spacing on arterials and collectors where the speed limit is below 40 miles an hour, the spacing is 250 feet.
yes,
And then it went on to say that the spacing for commercial drives is 440 feet. Unless I misinterpreted something.
So John, you're saying one's based on speed, one's based on a use. When they're both relevant, when it's the same situation where there's a commercial on that under 40 mile an hour street, what is the driveway space? Right?
My question, what is it? Is it 440 or is it 250?
you pull up Title IX. I just want to see how it was written.
905.
90501.
Let me scroll to it, then I'll put it on the screen, so I don't want to make everyone eyes go in circles.
Because the intent would be to promote shared use drives. So you don't have a drive every 250 when you have. Say along 102 and everything else. But as if you only have 400 foot of frontage. But if you also have 1,000 foot frontage, it tries to get those shared uses. It's a way to promote that. Now, it might not be phrased properly.
Again, to me, it was confusing as how you interpret if you have a commercial development on arterial street, what's the spacing?
We did talk about that quite a bit on the first one. My suggestion was to try to encourage more shared use.
Absolutely, I agree.
WD 40 on that one.
So the second line, there arterial collector road speeds limits 40 miles an hour less 250 feet. Then if you jump down to commercial driveways, 440 feet. So again, if I have a commercial lot on the arterial less than 40 miles an hour, is it 250 or 440? For the driveway spacing.
Well, now, isn't the arterial collector roads?
Oh,
That's street to street, that's intersections, right? Alan, the arterial collector roads with the speed limits, is that like street intersections?
then driveways, it'd be the same.
Okay,
So the assumption, so that's where, you know. All right, I see where the question is. And I can only tell you how I would interpret it. So like I said, it does need to be limited or updated. So there's more clear, because the intent would be. If you have 1,300 feet of frontage of commercial frontage, those drives be 440 feet. Even if the drive is or the road's 40 or less. Based on the usage. But that's all based on the size of the lot.
But if you have a 250-foot wide commercial frontage. And there's a developed property next to you, your driveway can be spaced 250 feet from that.
You'd have to, yeah.
You have multiple driveways that are spaced 440.
Yes, that'd be the intent to promote the
Makes sense.
shared use. So.
We need to clean the language. Yes, I do.
Oh, I have. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. We are still open on a public hearing on this. If anyone else has anything else to add or any questions.
I knew it. I knew you didn't come just to sit back.
Tim Sorey, Sand Creek Engineering. I haven't had a chance to talk with Alan about some of my comments. I just actually got this fairly late and was working on it some yet last night and today. If you want to, where are you at? The
Title IX.
streets and sidewalks? Okay, let's start there. Just that first section under 190202 with the arterial minor streets, all the thickness requirements. Just looking at that, it seems like the concrete section is pretty beefy compared to the asphalt section. I don't know if there's been any kind of structural number evaluation on that section by a geotech or anybody. I see what you're doing with the subgrade, but it seems like the concrete versus asphalt might be a little disproportionate in just looking at some of those, but just a suggestion to maybe look at that from a structural number standpoint of those sections of the concrete versus asphalt base. What do you-
Yeah, all I updated was the sub base, not the actual concrete thing.
And I think the better evaluation, because either we're over good ground or we're not, we're gonna have to have it tested out and it's gotta be stiff. There's no qualifications for that, as I noticed under the concrete. It says, for all the concrete sections, says over stable subgrade and lower layers. Where the other asphalt is over 9 inches of improved subgrade, over 24 inches of stable material. You might want to give some type of qualification for that. It just seems a little bit loose. The other question I had on those was getting away from a 3% cross slope or crown. And I didn't know, I think I know why, but was there a reason why we're getting away and going to a 2% cross slope on the larger streets? And just having a 3 on the neighborhood streets?
I don't think I changed those.
Is this just gutter slope?
This is,
The gutter slope I changed, but the actual cross slope, you're gonna be wanting to look at the table.
yeah, you can look at the table if you want.
That's where it shows it. If you go up to the table, it gives the cross slope of the roads.
okay, so where is that in?
Oh, it's up in 902.
So I think the revised table was the first one and the old table was the second one. 902.
I'm getting there. Slowly but sure.
It's all right, I need to breathe. It's all good.
This-
There you go. The one that has the,
There we go.
yeah, if you want to slide down below, so you've got, well, hold on a second, that 4th or 5th up from the bottom, the
Around
crown,
the 222 and 3.
2, 2, 3, 2, go down to the one below, which is, I believe, the original, right?
Yes,
Okay. You've got,
I did lower down the collector.
right, so I just didn't know where you were trying to go with that.
Just to match the same designs for our arterials, because some of our arterials are the same width. More of a common design standard. Whichever one they want to design to, the 2 or the 3, the 2's the middle ground. And the whole point with that, is some of that is on some of these roads, that water pushing to the side,
Mhm.
the steeper the slope, obviously the greater your open lane. But flatter slope, less speed is running it out of slope, smoother ride. So it's combining both of those, so just matching those.
Well, and what I would say, you know, on your steeper or on your faster road sections, you have to start worrying more about your hydroplane. But I would rather have a clear lane, more clear lane space and probably deeper. Because it weighs you down. I mean, if anybody's willing to drive down the gutter line in a big storm, you've got some issues, right? But if somebody's traveling at 40 or speeding at 50 or 60 or whatever, and it's just shallow is when you're gonna see the hydroplane. So you're, you know, at some point you're gonna do the speed limit. I can carry a lot more water if more efficiently with that 3% crown because of the spread requirements than probably that 2%. And I think it might behoove us to give that option based on the condition. If we're in a steeper road section, it's probably not that big a deal to go either way. If you want consistency, I get it.
Can you keep scrolling up, Diane? Where it's at collector design of industrial. It doesn't give a range, it says there's crown too.
Yeah.
Okay with that.
Yeah, to me, 2 to 3% on any of that is almost okay. And I would almost rather review it on a case by case.
Alan, do you just want to make it a minimum, 2%?
Well, you know, you
You
want.
don't really want to set it, so I just want to say 2 to 3. I'm gonna, here's your range you have to be in, 2, 2, 3.
And it actually helps when we're trying to final out something, if they're a little off, it gives us a little bit of range to work with rather than, hey, let's rip this all out. If it's still meets the intent. All right, I'm gonna keep on. I would do a search for AHTD and replace with RDOT. If you haven't already, I found some AHTDs on this one. On page 103 down adjacent street improvements. I think you answered this a while ago. It's because
The street improvements are on collectors.
collectors and arterials, right? So is there ever a situation where we're adjacent to a local with a small subdivision? That would cause a problem? That we're only doing to the center line and enough past to get to legitimate lanes? That's my question there. Because I understand it if it's collector or arterial, but if there's a situation where that street designation is still a local, then you should be at the 10-year, right?
I just updated to design storm.
What's that?
I just updated to design storm. For the road designation.
Yes. Yeah. That works real well. If you would slide down to, this is at the end, the handicap ramps, the details. And just a quick catch on some of those details. I'll try to be quick, y'all. I don't want to belabor this. Y'all have tons to do. It's all the way almost to the bottom, I believe.
Ah.
There you go. Whoop.
Yep.
Okay, so go back up. I think it's up or is it down? Nope, you gotta go down.
You're always taking a chance when Diane's doing this.
So let's look at that detail, because I've got a comment on both.
Trying to drive over here.
So can I go over here? Does that work for you?
Absolutely.
Sure.
I love y'all's side of the details because I understand the intent, okay? Because it makes it easy to do this back curve, eat upgrade, do a ramp, have a flat space. It's gotten away from because, hey, we want to direct people straight across. But the problem I have with that is typically my stop bar is about 4 feet back from the line of traffic here. And then if you have a cross access or crosswalk, you would do the crosswalk and then have your stop bar behind it. Right now, what we have with that detail is the stop bar needs to be up here because you don't want to be that far back. And if you're stopping here and stacking up, now you stack through the pedestrian. That's my only complaint that I had.
Is this just for a local? One question. Second question, is that a stop sign I see called out right there? No?
I don't know if there's a stop sign anywhere on here
No,
now.
there's not any.
Close that other eye.
That ain't even, I can't read any of that.
Oh, it's just ramps and landing. Here, I'll be nice. I'll zoom in.
Oh, ramp.
So.
Had a pee.
Typically, what we've done, typically what we have done is this green space comes on across. And this sidewalk comes straight across too, and that's your pedestrian crossing, and then your stop bars behind it. And that sets up well, but it's really hard to get the ramps to work out well. So it's a quandary, and it's kind of what you want product wise at the end of the day. What I would say from a pedestrian standpoint and driver, people don't expect to look there for a pedestrian crossing. So just if you can, that next detail that shows the slope, it's just a simple little, this I think breaks the navy, keep sliding up a little bit because it's down here. I think this on the mountable curb right here with the side or the ramp not ending at the flow line of the gutter. I mean, it needs to end at the back of curb, but you can't have that 2-inch or whatever raise in the mountable curb, or you break your 1 in 12 ADA requirement. So I think, again, ADA is for interpretation.
I can honestly say I didn't look at these, I didn't make any updates to these.
Right, they've been there for a long time,
Yes.
and they're good details, but there's some quirky things with them, and the main thing is I don't like stopping ahead of that pedestrian crossing.
Hey, Tim, your
Yes,
question,
ma'am.
your question about collector versus local, was that about half-street improvements?
Half street improvements and what design storm to design the storm sewer for. And what I think Alan said was whatever that street class.
10 to 25, because pretty much always for collectors and arterials, but if that case persists, it's easier to have it just say design storm.
The design storm.
But I think the only time we'd run into something weird would be in cases like Edgewood Road or something like that where it functions like a collector,
Yes.
but it's not designated a collector.
But that's where it has to be changed just to say the design storm. Because I can't enforce the 25. I mean, that would be over designing possibly, so. It just changed to the design storm for if there is one more of those odd situations occur.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that up because that's kind of a weird situation that's on a couple of roads.
And again, when we're trying to write the rules, we've got purposes, but sometimes it's hard to write a perfect rule.
Alan, any thoughts on the sidewalk? Four-way?
Are there any that,
I don't think we actually specify exactly where. A lot of that is showing that to put them perpendicular. We don't want them in the radius of the curve, though. That's the problem. Because that's where your crossings get.
you push them out into?
So, yeah, I mean, so you don't want it in the curve. That's just for saying you want it outside that curve. So some of it on some of the local ones, it depends on where that radius is. But that's, I think, is the intent on pushing it showing it where it is.
You almost have to you almost have to pull it back and give more green space in this radius. So that this alignment can be held and this alignment can be held and your ramping happens back in.
Well, and I don't think that's quite accurate either. I mean, it's like 2 feet of green space.
Yeah.
I think it's 2 or 3.
It should be 5.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not sure with that detail I mean, that's there, but all that's really showing is that the ramps don't always have to be. Going up the sidewalk when it's a continuous line, is that you can ramp off to the side, but when you do, you have to put that curb in for your grading. That's really what that's showing. I'm not sure if it flat out states anywhere where like you have to be at a certain location for those crosswalks. I don't think that's actually stated in there. So.
I think the other one as well, it shows 0 green space. So I don't know that we have a street section that has the mountable curb right next to the sidewalk.
There's a little bit of green space, just not much.
Right.
Well, I think that was-
And we're gonna have 5 feet, right?
Should. And that's gonna help.
2%. So,
Yeah, but that detail is showing at the actual ramp itself when it ties into that mountable curb.
oh, I see what you're saying.
And that's where they have to adjust that section on the mountable curb.
Yeah.
And you're kicking it back because the 5 foot doesn't work. You need 6 foot to make the 1 in 12 work on the slope.
And just for ADA, I mean, your ramp can be 10 feet,
Right,
as long as you have the 5x5 landing pad.
right. It can be longer, that's right. Page, if you want me to move on, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so on page 121 and 122, this goes back to what John was talking about, showing the driveways. I understand what you're doing. In fact, you've got a couple of the culprits that I think caused the problem in the room with you with driveways and property lines and drainage inlets. And I think we've got the developer in the room too, if we want to have that discussion. But anyway, what I would suggest is we show that on the preliminary plat and don't show it on your final plat. Because that way staff gets to check, hey, I've got room, I don't have a conflict. You're not designating on a final plat that gets filed where that has to go. And we have accommodated that, hey, we can make a driveway work on this lot.
I would agree with that, and I don't think that it would even necessarily be a legal final plat requirement. It's not a physical structure or anything like that.
Usually just on the final plats, we require the locations of the fire hydrants, the
Right.
inlets, stop signs, street lights.
So as long as it says preliminary plats, subdivision preliminary plats, I think you're resolved.
I think it's just to bring attention to the designer, the engineer, staff, everybody.
Just so that we have proof that, yes, you can put a driveway there.
Right.
There too.
Certain people.
Certain of us people. So on the distance between the commercial drives and the local roads you were talking about a second ago, I'm all for those shared drives. What I run into historically is we've got to really try to address that at platting times. And what you may want to do is get some language in there that says, hey, this is for the purpose of shared driveways, for commercial driveways. This is the separation we want. We encourage that, but you need to start demanding those cross-access easements, because what ends up happening is my developers run into a situation where they can't get the drive to work, and now they're held hostage by the neighbor to get some type of access easement to get shared access. No, page 125 of this just has a reference dimension there for your 3 foot of green space. I don't think you want 3 foot of green space. And you're using the gutter line of the curb, and I would prefer you use the back of the curb because it is the actual fixed point. There's not a place to measure your gutter line on. Moving on, drainage regulations. Sorry.
Let's see what you're talking about.
You got, go up a little bit, it's not, that caught my attention, that green space and then that edge of gutter line. If we just make that back a curve, I think. Whether we have 5 foot of green space, it needs to be back a curve, yeah, because that gutter line's a really kind of arbitrary point depending on your curve profile. Title 16.
Let me go.
So there's a Title 16, and this is page 285. Sorry, I didn't write down the subsection. This is talking about cross sections, and Alan, you've reduced the number of cross sections that we've got to show for city streets from 50 to every 100. My question is, there are times where I do need to or want to show cross sections cuts in my plans, but historically that was for the purpose of calculating dirt work and seeing how everything transitions and goes on. Anymore with the technology we have, we don't necessarily need it. 285.
I'll get there. Almost.
Pretty much that it stated for 50. 50 is significantly overburdened.
Oh,
That's,
yeah.
doesn't make sense.
But I'm just, it may be that some wording there that just says, hey, I'll see cross sections at critical points or something of that nature. Because we're not calculating dirt work that way anymore. If y'all want it, that's fine. It's just,
See it in there.
sorry, 285, it's number 6, or sorry, number 5 up at the top of the page.
If you're saying you think 100, just
I think having them in there at all is almost
Section, yeah.
the standard section. We're working on corridors anymore and designing them. I mean, they're easy enough to spit out. It's not that big a deal. It just burns through paper and cross sections. And there are critical times, especially if you're dealing with super elevations or something like that, that you might want to see it, but. Did you find it?
No.
You're
On
in
page 285.
Title 16,
Yes,
drainage regulations.
there's page 285.
Maybe I got my copies out of order. Maybe that was still in streets.
Sounds like it.
It sounds like it doesn't. I'm sorry, I didn't do a good job collating.
It may have been one of those that would be an FIP requirements for floodplain sections.
Maybe. Okay, so, here, I'll just rip this out. Hand it to you. How about that? And then I had this one, there's a typo there for or rather than, it's got smushed together. Then now I'm on 289 sediment basins. So this, am I in the wrong section? Drainage regulations, page 289 on number 16 on sediment basins. It's sizing of the sediment basin. Basically took out the 3,000 cubic feet per acre required and brought it down to 1815. And then ends the paragraph with statement, if runoff is not eventually collected in a detention pond or pre-treatment on site, sediment basins may be required to be permanent.
Yes, so right now, that's your SWIP requirements, that putting your sediment basins in there now. There are some of these projects that are along your flood channels that it's easier to have free release. It helps your flood.
Yes.
The problem is doing so, you've now violated SWIP requirements by having.
Gotcha.
So this is saying there is no such thing as free release. You have to have either pre-treatment or the permanent sediment basin or a detention pond. You
Okay.
can't just have a project where it just lets all your runoff release without doing some kind of way to pre-treat or protect floodwater.
So water quality without detained release is what you're going for.
Yeah, and that 3,000, it gives you the, depending on slope, it's 1,500 to 3,000. Really, it gets rid of that variance and just says 1815 because that's your first half inch runoff.
Okay, so this isn't so much for, this is a permanent sediment basin need. That's not going to be the case in most of our subdivisions where the detention basin is acting as your sediment basin.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
It's just at a minimum, that gets rid of parts that don't have anything, and just water's freely discharging, and you watch the sediment, the oils, pesticides go.
Drainage manual. And I'll get out and get done.
Oh, there you go, Diane. Yeah. We're there. Number 5, cut 100-foot sections.
Yeah, this one,
There. That was where, yeah, that's what I was looking for.
yeah. I did finally find it.
Okay. And then the next,
Gotta look it up, because
and then
I
the.
guess.
that was-
okay.
yeah, yes. But anyway, you got my notes now.
Squirrel finds a
They're
nut.
saying you want to cover that whole requirement altogether.
Uh,
Cross-sectionally required. as you're showing.
I don't know if we want it.
I would say it hasn't been really enforced. I'd say even with that, 'cause I've never asked for someone to give me 50-foot cross sections.
Right.
I mean, I'm already in the profiles, the typical sections.
At some point, it's almost like we could just delete it, and if we need to for clarification. If you give a small blurb in there that says if requested by city engineer for clarifications, cross sections will be provided. I think that's possibly an easier way to handle it.
I didn't know that was in there.
I'm telling you where it came from. It's probably old school calculating dirt.
More often than not, you just don't even have them.
And Tim, if you tell me for the drainage manual, which section,
Mm-hmm.
like, a little bit easier.
Yeah. My notes.
I'm not making stabs in the dark trying to find it and.
See, this was my notes from working. on something. All right. Stormwater manual 01. Well, it's that first section on before the definitions. Are we on this one? There we go. So right there, and I just want to add to the paragraph, I understand, I like it. About the third line, fourth line down, fifth line starts with requirements set forth in this ordinance and the city of Centerton drainage manual. That says that the engineer of record is stating that the system will function as designed and meets the requirements set forth. I like what you're doing, Alan. What I would say is when we get to a final project, regardless of what I've designed, it is never perfect. And the intent there rather than requirements is what I would rather see, but I think that's what you're trying to get at. So, and I understand the purpose of that paragraph.
I got a question while we're on this one.
Mhm.
Alan, historically, there was the requirement for a recertification of detention ponds after the fact.
It's the ponds, yes, those all get done when they're completed. It's also when you start looking at the as-built for the drainage manual with the pipe. Like I said, they're never built perfectly,
Ran,
is that when they rerun it, if they're not meeting, the capacity requirements or not meeting the HGL requirements, things like that, it's still gonna function as intended.
right,
EOR is taking that and was always their responsibility, but it was never blatantly expected. And then the perception was that the city's taking liability for these. Like, no, we're still not. So it's just more blatantly stating that, yeah, they're still saying this is gonna function as intended. So.
maybe, I don't know, year or two ago, I had some discussions. There used to be a statement in there that a representative from the city had to be present when the engineer out there surveying. Is that still in there?
Yeah.
Is it, so
I certify every pond when they go for the final.
are you out there while they're surveying the pond?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to keep doing that? Because in my
Yes.
mind,
Absolutely.
the engineer stamping the set.
I use that to help. I use that to help do when I review these for finals, and I have one. How they analyze it afterwards did not match everything we measured in the field survey.
I can understand that as well. What I ran into when I was on the private side is that it was a nightmare trying to schedule that and get somebody out there when the surveyors could be out there and then when the city was available to go out there. And it turned into oh yeah, just go shoot it and give it to me anyway.
It gives them that leeway to where, if we can't get something within a couple days, then that's what it has to be. There's a time frame on the notification says something up. So I try to be as flexible and I don't think I've had an issue meeting with the surveyor. Usually it's when do you want to do it? We want to do it on Tuesday. Well, I can do it Tuesday afternoon. Or first thing Wednesday, or I give them that and say, what's the best time for you?
It was always a headache. It seemed a little overzealous because they were stamping it anyway, but I do understand your point of, hey, I was out here that what you show doesn't match what we saw. So,
We can always provide the raw data file
right.
of the shots too.
That's what I
You can't make it, that's a way to say, yes, it was shot.
So with AutoCAD, I can double check and say, oh, yep, your volumes.
Yeah.
That's the volumes I had, or, within reason. Depending on how you do the trying, so.
Okay, so 1.3.2, item 17. I'm on the right one. No, that's not the one. Put over two. Oh, the one above, yeah, 17, sorry. Yeah, up above the 2 foot. So this is a 2-foot finished floor raise on a lot next to a detention basin.
Yes.
Okay, so, and that's the water surface elevation in the detention basin.
100-year design surface, yes.
Okay. So, and I understand, and we've got 3 foot of finished floor elevation required on floodplain stuff. And I just feel like we're overkill and overkill in a lot of this. So I still have to be the responsible party as the engineer of record. And I still am looking at my design of where the water goes when everything fails. And how I was taught was make sure it doesn't go in the back door out the front. And at some point, to me, that's an arbitrary number that now dictates the next house down the road. And the next house down the road might not have any problem at all unless it gets built below the finished floor of the house next to the pond. And now you've just created a problem. And I say that because I've responded to a request from a property owner that they were the first house built and they got built around and their house became the flume. And I have a problem with just a number.
Alan, is this a,
We have a
is
number.
this a plat requirement or is this a grading permit?
It'd be the plat, because they always state what your minimum finished floor elevation is. So really on these ponds, a lot of times we'll see it to where the 100-year storm is at a certain elevation. And all the adjacent lots are already 5 feet above, so it doesn't really matter. It's some of those where they're flat, the finished floor is at that 2 foot.
Are we getting a finished floor on every single lot?
Just the ones that are directly adjacent to the pond.
It just drives a lot of extra dirt work potentially that's not needed if, and I'm okay, I know we have to have rules here. But if I can demonstrate to you, I know where the water's going. Is there a waiver process to get that reduced?
Well, the other way I look at it is you think building code, your property's got to drop 1 foot in 10 feet or 20 feet. You should have 1 foot freeboard on your pond. So you're saying that that 10-foot drop's gonna put you into the pond and you only want to be 18? So I mean,
I just end up getting my hands tied.
Could you put or as approved by engineer, city engineer?
and
And I think a lot of what we've heard from John and Tim tonight are items that we've tried to, again, back to what Tim said, items we've tried to kind of regulate because they need to be regulated, but there's no perfect rule for that situation. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
I mean, I would love to be able to sit down with you and say, Alan, here's where it's going. I know where it's going. It's calculated. I'm good. It's never gonna encroach on this lot. I just had to jump through hoops in Bentonville to get some minimum finished floors next to a drainage way undone because the old subdivision next to it had been under water by 4 feet before my houses have a problem. At a foot above the curb. So it's just
yeah,
hoops we jump through.
yeah, I mean, again, that's where I look at it. I mean, it's already the building code, the 12 inches above surrounding land, right? That's already there. And this with your 1 foot freeboard.
Freeboard, you should be there.
The 2 foot should already be there. no
Right.
Questions asked.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, I don't think it's
That
needed.
big a deal. Okay, that's
Um,
fine. I'll roll on. You already dealt with the time of concentration issue, and the other 20 minutes on, sorry, section 2.3.5, so we can roll with that. I think you all hit a little bit on this. This is, at the bottom of 2.3.5. No, sorry, this is on 3-7. So this is the 3.3, the last part of 3.3. And it talks about the access around the channel. And if I'm understanding or I'm misunderstanding. So the way I'm reading this, and a 10-foot access around the channel. That's maintenance, and then maximum cross slope of access to be 10 to 1. So you're not saying that the ditch, the channel side slopes are 10-1. You're just wanting an access.
So your 3-to-1 ditch,
Okay,
10-to-1, your access,
gotcha.
so you can drive it.
Okay.
Well, it's part of the easement, but it's so you can access to maintenance, we have to clean it. You can get a vehicle through it, because we're not getting a backhoe on 3-to-1.
It's, are we okay to have one side with a 10-foot access? Are you wanting 10 foot on both sides of that channel? But that ends up being a swath,
I only need one side for
one
access.
side or access, okay. It's just not,
I mean, having on both would be convenient for anyone doing maintenance, but.
It's overkill. I got you.
Well, it depends. You have a 50-foot swale?
Well, yeah, and the depth.
Well, then I'm gonna say, I mean, you're gonna need this for maintenance. But if you have a 3-foot wide ditch, backhoe's gonna clear all that. So.
So I had a question, and there's some CMP still stated. It has an end value for metal pipe.
CMP should have been deleted out.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because on 3.4.2 pipe flows, you still have a reference for the end value for corrugated metal. But then,
But got rid of that and then update all the end values accordingly for concrete.
okay, you may have, I just saw that you pulled the metal out here and it was still showing up there.
When I get rid of the track changes.
So on 5.4.6, the last paragraph that was added. I don't know what. I don't know what you're trying to say there.
Same thing as the SWIP requirements to where. You have to have the permanent basin, permanent sediment basin, pre-treatment or detention pond.
Okay. And then the last thing I think I've got is the HGL. And historically, our HGLs were from the top of the inlet down, trying to keep lids from getting popped off the inlets and ended up down somewhere. I think what probably happened over time was when it was a foot requirement for that HGLs, there were probably problems with design versus construction. And now you end up with a big storm and they come off anyway. That HGL got changed to 2 foot. And like y'all were discussing a while ago, it's really 2.5 if we're measuring from the gutter. At some point, we're going to have a situation on flat sites where we can no longer do the storm drainage that we need without running double runs of pipe to get there. And I'm not okay getting away from a situation where you have a pressurized system for that 10-year storm. You're gonna have a pressurized system in that storm sewer system anyway with larger events. And traditionally, we have always designed our storm sewers to be able to handle that situation, even for the storm event, the design event. That's the purpose of showing that HGL. Our pipe materials are much better than they used to be. We're getting rid of metal pipe, which is probably the worst on leaking as far as all of your joints. So I don't understand. I feel like we're adding cost, just adding cost. And I know that I can work with you and work through problems, but at the same time, I don't want to see that kind of requirement in the rating. That's all I've got. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Have any questions or comments? We'll do a last call for anyone from the audience that wishes to speak. With that, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
John, I motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right. Next steps.
Is I need you guys to motion to recommend pending the following updates. Clarify Title 9.051, the commercial driveway spacing. Provide the variance in crown slope for collector streets to 223 feet or 223%.
223.
Rather than just blatantly having it to. Remove AHTD to RDOT. Update the half street design storm requirements to being the design storm, not 25, in case a local storm goes up. Change the driveway locations being shown on preliminary plats rather than saying the plans. Possibly updating some of those details in Title IX for where the sidewalks are with those dimensions. Either getting rid of the dimensions or calling them out differently to 5 foot. Part of the drainage manual section 1 saying as designed, saying they're gonna function as intended. And then other changes you think I need to make them, because I wasn't, the other thing I like drop that HGL from the rim to gutter. I'd be happy making that 18 inches below, so it's.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what if we do 1.5 from, and then it doesn't conflict with the rest of the code, you can still base it from the gutter line. Right, and it'd be 1.5 feet.
Depending.
We need a motion to approve those changes.
So I need you guys to recommend I make those ordinance changes pending those. Comments which I'll have.
And I don't wanna lock you in too, because I know you got some other notes and stuff over there, so.
Oh, yeah,
I think I would be okay to make a motion, with the changes as we discussed.
and getting rid of cross sections.
And getting rid of, see, yeah. But, this is Joey. I'll make a motion to, recommend that the changes to the code amendments on Title IX Streets and Sidewalks, Title 16 Drainage and Flood, and Stormwater Management and Drainage Manual, be recommended for approval to council based on our discussions and visions tonight.
Tony, I second.
Motion and a second. Donna, this was a public hearing. If you'll do a roll call for me, please.
Joey Engel,
Yes.
Devin Murphy,
Yes.
Brandon Swoboda. Alexis,
Yes.
Jerry Harris. John Sessoms,
Yes.
Ben Lewis,
Yes.
Tony Davis,
Yes.
Jeff Sapebarth.
Yes.
Hey, Tim and John, thank y'all for spending the time reviewing this. We appreciate it.
I'm not sure what y'all are gonna do the rest of the week, but appreciate you taking this. Thanks for making it easy so that we could understand and again, taking the time, because I know there was a lot put into it, and again, Alan and I'm assuming staff as well. Thank you guys for the revisions. I know it's a lot of work to do those.
And you all have a good code, by the way. For the most part, you all do good.
Thank you.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, next on the agenda this evening is subdivision 2103 Silverleaf Edition. A final plat. This is at 12910 Bush Road. It is zoned R3 single family. 52.98 acres, 201 single family dwelling units. The applicant here to give us just a brief overview.
So I'm Chase with Half Associate. Phase one of this development, 128 lots. On the south. Straightforward.
Eric, you want to give us a staff?
This is the final part of the Silverleaf subdivision. It consists of 53 acres with 128 single family lots zoned R3SF. With improvements to be made on Bush Road for 40 feet, 45 feet for the Wade Drive, which will be an extension. There will be 2 phases. The first phase will see the stub out, we'll see a stub of Wade Drive being built. That'll be 300 feet. And then the the remainder of the extension to go the length of the property will be finished in phase 2. 2.6 units per acre for zoning density. There's no floodplain in that was on the property at the time. Access to Bush Road. And
Just minor comments,
I'm sorry, it's minor comments.
minor comments on the plat and then the covenants.
Right.
You were okay with those? You were okay with those? Have you seen those?
I haven't received any comments.
I don't think.
What's even as, add the stormwater management facilities maintenance language, which is required by the city, get the correct subdivision throughout the covenants. And they recommend a grammar and I want to review to correct grammar and other typing mistakes.
We got those?
I was finishing them up today. I will send them out tomorrow morning.
The only question I have is two power poles that what we show is, it says they're remaining on site and agreed to be taken out by Carroll Electric according to one of the contractors.
So when I was on site, there were 2 power poles still on the site.
Like they're removed, just laying.
No, they're done. They said it was Carroll Electric, right, who works with the electric utilities? Yeah. Okay, just make sure. They've agreed to take down the power poles, but have not specified an exact time that they will do so.
They were informed they're not gonna get grading permits to build those homes until they're gone anyway.
I don't know that should hold up to the final plat, but I just wanted to understand what that was.
They're just 2 power poles that were meant to be demoed. That's what Tyler did. Carroll hasn't turned the power off. It's the one that still is live.
And a lot of times Carroll Electric won't remove the poles or cut off the power until final plat is recorded.
I know how you can get them removed.
I can move a pole.
Yeah.
Well, electricity, not so nice.
And also talk about the bonds too.
Get them out here to fix that line in a minute.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. We'll let everyone talk about the bonds here real quick.
And 266,899 drainage, $760,024. Water and sewer combined 50%. 562,233.
Does that match? Have they been reviewed?
Yes, that's he corrected it. I know I signed off on everything for those today.
Because Eric can tell us the amount, but that does me no good. I don't know if that matches as it should or not. Do we have those?
The other part of the update was, but it's gonna move bonds on the streets and storm ones were.
That was a pretty big one.
Yeah, it's a big subdivision.
Have we received those?
We have not received the hard copy of the bonds yet.
They were approved today, so we're in the process of getting those to you guys.
Probably need that by council.
Yes, it does need to be, they do need to be here by council, and if you guys could also send us a PDF of the final, so that way we can look at it before they print them and give them to you to make sure that the dates and everything are correct. So that way you guys don't have to call your bond company and go, we need new ones because we made a boo-boo on a date, so.
Yeah, PDF before.
Yeah. And then once we look at those and go, yes, everything's right. We'll let you know to go ahead and have the real one.
Planning or.
Yes.
Let's pictures for that as soon as you do.
Any other questions or comments from any of the commissioners? If not, then I would entertain a motion for subdivision 2103, the Silverleaf final plats.
It's John, a motion to approve subdivision 2103 Silverleaf subdivision.
Joey, a second.
Motion is second. Is anyone opposed? All right, thank you. All right, next on the agenda is subdivision 2105 Shirley Estates final plat at 2885 Edgewood Road is zoned R3, 11.32 acres, 32 lots. And just you again?
Again,
What you got this time?
32 lot subdivision, again, detention on site. Should be pretty straightforward as well, so. Any questions?
Eric, this is you as well?
This is the final part of the Shirley Estate subdivision. It consists of 11.32 acres with 32 single family lots on zoning. Right of way dedication has provided for Edgewood Road of about 30 feet. Located on Edgewood Road, which is designated a local street. Detention pond on site, no floodplains or wetlands have been found on the site either.
There is a detention pond on on the plat.
Southwest corner. Close, yeah.
One detention pond on site, I think.
I'm sorry, I read that as no, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, there is one. Zoning density, the zoning density is approximately 2.85 units per acre. So, let's see, 30 feet of right of way has been dedicated previously. On the smaller of the two parcels being developed. And then the rest of the dedication will take place with the final. Connection to public sewer. And access to Edgewood Road. Final plat and record documents have been approved by staff. Covenants were approved today. During the site work, there was old structures that needed to be demoed. We're waiting a response to the demo work, and bonds have been approved for the following amounts. Report.
What were the bond amounts?
237, 725.80 for street, 100%. Storm is 187,422.79. Water sewer 50% is 171,977.03.
Little building's gone yet?
I don't believe that they are all gone. I think there's one still remaining. They were hopeful to use it. I think it's a shop to use it during home construction to store their materials.
I think that's a whole different discussion then. I think we need to have a discussion on that then, if that's the case, right? And they can't use it. We would have to give them permission. Is that right? If it's an existing structure on the,
Oh, well, they're gonna remove it. They're not gonna use it on that site. They're wanting to remove it to use elsewhere.
They're wanting to
demolish.
It's gonna be.
Okay.
It's not gonna.
He wants a shed.
So when's the council meeting?
Next week.
Yes, the 13th.
Rain coming. That's gonna be close.
Are y'all gonna want it removed before council?
Yes, because I know that Robbie, building inspector, has stated that that all that needs to be removed before.
Could we entertain the thought of not being able to pull building permits on those lots? A lot. Until that building's removed. So a condition. You've obviously got to get removed for them to build the homes, so.
That would be up to Robbie. I know he doesn't want to have those buildings out there when people are starting to build. Even if it's obviously can't be on some of those lots because there's building there. But he doesn't want them to be removing the building while other new structures would be being built. That was a long way around, sorry.
I think I understood what you're saying. Was that a condition that we could not entertain?
That's up to you guys.
I did have one question about the final plat. I'm seeing that the utility easements there, but I'm not seeing any drainage easements labeled drainage easements. I'm assuming it looks like they're
is one.
There's one, Tony. Next on the east side of lot 21, DE.
Okay, I was looking to try to get it to the pond.
That
That's
gets
where the access is.
Oh, right here,
That's to the right of lot 21.
right here.
east, right?
Okay. Okay.
So what do you, I think the house is what we need to, or the structure is what we need to decide on. What are we talking about here?
It's a 10 by 20. Is it that big or 10 by 10? It's like a barn shed type thing, a metal.
So like, is it gonna be deconstructed and moved? Is it gonna be put on a trailer and moved? I mean, what's the true plans on it?
No idea how they would do that.
100-strong Amish family.
I mean, it's been on site for how long have y'all been working on it and then you still haven't gotten rid of it? I think our leeway is much less right now than it was or has been. So, I mean,
Bond?
So Rob's.
I'm not gonna get a permit. I mean, that's the thing. Do what?
Rob gave an email on 17th, they're looking at it that, you know, the building's still there. So he says it's not ready for final, so no building permits, not just those lots, no building permits would be issued.
We could entertain that.
That's what Rob Flout says. He won't issue a single building permit with.
But he's asking for the building permits on just those lots where.
Right, and I'm saying we.
He's saying
No,
no.
entertain.
Rob's already stated that no building permits would be given until that building's demoed.
I mean, I think our main goal would be to get final plat approval, so if that's a condition.
Yeah, I mean, he was saying that already,
Right.
you know, it's not ready for final until that's gone, period. So I mean, he would give them. So
So it would be filed until it's gone, essentially.
that's what he
Right.
was for stating, yeah. And he's been saying that for a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
And
Bobby saying no building permits issued.
not ready to be final, yeah, not ready to be final.
Let's try not to do the final inspection.
Yeah, he's not even saying it's ready with, take it with the final plat if the building's still there. That's what his saying, but
So question, are we creating a non-conformity? Is it within a setback?
I don't know where it was to be.
No, it's probably located. Round about here somewhere.
1, 2, 3, maybe part of.
I think
The back big one. 16.
my understanding was the building that it was around lot.
The what?
It was around
Off
lot.
the edge.
Yeah, it's off edge.
It's one of those first 6
Right here.
lots.
Well, I'm saying I wouldn't have as big of a problem with it if it were on the lot within the setback. But if it's approved and filed, the non-conforming structure that we just created. You know what I'm saying? It's easier just to remove it.
Don's got a big truck. Maybe he'll go out there tonight.
Go get it. You take care of power pole.
I don't know about the condition of the weekend.
John's on the phone with the developer, so we'll see what the outcome is here.
If it's something that they want to check out, live in the trailer, I mean.
Except we're gonna get 2 inches of rain in the next.
Yeah.
It's not on any of these, this is just final.
And on the
way ahead, right?
the construction plans for the demolition.
About to get wet.
The prelim plat?
We've been on the construction plans.
Yeah.
I was speaking to the builder, he's wanting to leave it there for storage while he builds the homes. At least the last few homes.
No, that's different.
That's his intention.
doesn't-
Rob has said no.
Yeah,
That doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound like that.
The building inspector said all along that all the buildings were demoed. He wasn't gonna get permits till they all were.
So the building official say he's not gonna issue a building permit till the building's gone.
Yeah,
Any
any building permits.
You build a permit for any
Any
lot.
building permits for all 32 were.
Guess he's gonna move it.
Been told that all along that it needs to go, so.
I think the difference in, I'm just thinking of a subdivision where we left a building and they built the subdivision around it and then it became a permanent structure in the building. Or in the subdivision, so it's a little bit different than this one in which they just want to maintain it or use it. It's a little different situation because it's not, there's a chance it's not within the setbacks and some other things, so. That's part of the reason I think we can't approve it based on what the request is.
So could he move it to when it's platted? You move it to the lot that he wants to work on, put it within the setbacks? I don't think that's against the rules.
No, but I'd say I'd just be worried about, structural integrity. I mean, if it's a post barn, sticks buried.
Well, you'd have to get building inspections. Right?
Yeah, I'd say I'd be personally leery of utilizing a bunch and being in it, but. No,
Right.
But just leaving it there is not an option. I don't
leaving it there,
So
showing the plat.
it sounds like. Personally, I don't have an issue moving forward with this. I think we just have to state the condition correctly. And I think the condition would be that the structure is removed or relocated to a conforming location based on the regulations. And passes all building
I'd
inspections.
say, I mean, if you're gonna relocate it though, I mean, you're. Inspections,
Well, that's no different than me final platting this subdivision and going to Lowe's and buying a shed and going and putting it out there.
yeah, I'd say if you're able to move it like that, it's a temporary structure, then it's way different.
So if it's just contingent upon moving it to an acceptable location and meeting all code requirements, then that should cover it.
It was a 10 by 20.
That's my stab in the dark. I mean, it's a pretty good size shed barn. I mean, it's not like a tiny backyard.
like a garage. I mean, I'm just trying to
That
picture.
picture, if you can put it on block to make it temporary.
Even an RV.
So it's bigger than 10 by 20.
That was just my stab in the dark.
Well,
Well, it sounds to me like the building inspector's conditioning the permits with this being moved, on this being moved. Correct. So it's kind of, in my opinion, kind of irrelevant about discussion tonight about the final plat.
Yeah.
Final plat moves on, gets approved, it doesn't matter, the building's gonna be moved, we can build houses. That's what I'm hearing from staff about the building inspector's position.
Yeah, you won't issue any permits until it's gone.
That's what it sounds like. So if that's the case, he's gonna move it. Gets the final plat approved, Carroll Electric starts doing their thing, things gonna start happening as he moves the building before you get any building permits. Right?
So we're not gonna approve the final plat with the garage or whatever it is.
That's up to you guys.
You're not gonna get permits even if we approve it. I'm just saying.
It's a moot point.
What,
I'm just saying that
what's the issue with,
we can approve it however we want.
That's what I was saying. You could approve
The
it.
building inspector doesn't have to give them the permits based on what we.
right? Right. I don't know that it's,
At the end of the day, they're gonna have to move it anyway.
right. So I don't know why we, in my opinion, I wouldn't want to hold them up, make them come
It
back.
would just delay to come back again.
Right.
So we can approve it. I don't think we need to put anything in there about the.
I would say pending, removal of the building.
It is 30 by 40.
Thank you, Donna.
Preference would be this commission approve the final plat. If you want council, with whatever we need to move forward with. And deal with Robbie on the shed and build.
When it's time to deal with the building permit.
Exactly. And he'll move the shed or Robbie will be okay with it, one of the two.
Yeah, because the building doesn't have anything to do really with us approving. I mean, your final plat meets our requirements.
Other than the fact we're approving a non-conforming, creating a non-conforming structure, possibly. It's not on the plan. So I don't know.
Which is probably what he'll live by whenever he tries to hold up your building permits.
And that's fine. I mean, if. I think that's an issue that. He understands that, and I think he does. Spoke to him on the phone. He said, I'll move the building when I have to move the building. If they won't let me leave it there to store materials, then I'll move the building.
Want to- Is there anything? in
I don't think
the-
there's anything to note. I mean, I don't, again, we're looking at the subdivision to Tony's point. We're making sure that,
Well,
I mean,
same part as if we don't put that stipulation that with the building being removed.
Right.
So he's not gonna get a building permit or whatever, maybe he just leaves it, walks away, let someone else deal with it. Then we may have put that subdivision with that building on for lot.
okay, so we'll
So
just
just add.
stipulation under that has to be removed.
That's all.
That too. So with that, I would entertain a motion then for subdivision 2105, the Shirley Estates final plat.
John, I motion to approve subdivision 2105 Shirley Estates final plat pending removal of any storage.
Second, Ben.
Motion and a second. Is there anyone opposed? Thank you, guys. Good luck. All right, next on the agenda is development 2209. Domino's Pizza, large scale development. It's lot 4, block 2, the Ridgefield edition. It's at the southwest corner of West Centerton Boulevard and Monroe Street. It is 0.93 acres and it is zoned C2. Is the applicant here?
His budget would be true.
That's 75.
Josh Collins, of Anderson Engineering. You want just a brief overview of this?
Sorry.
You want just a brief overview of this? As you said, sitting on the southwest corner, of Centerton Boulevard, Monroe. It's just a standard Domino's. It's on a little less than an acre. I believe there were some comments within the last week or two from the city. And I want to say all of them were addressed at this time in regards to an adjacent street agreement and street lights, varying right rate location, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's the highs and lows of it, I think. If you have any questions on any of it.
Thank you, Donna.
So this is a small project. It is located on Centerton Boulevard. This is an area that RDOT will be widening. So with that, staff is recommending that 5 feet of sidewalk be constructed rather than the 10 feet, as very shortly they will be curved out and widened. So there are just a couple of very minor comments. There should be very quick, so we recommend approval. Minor adjustment on the street agreement to clarify that some of the green space has a variable width, but all in all, it looks very good. There's pretty good lighting within the parking lot. We do recommend that there be some lighting added at the entry to make sure that it's well lit at night. There is good landscaping included. It is meeting the residential compatibility standards with screening on the south side. There was some additional planting added with the comments from previous meetings. So overall, very good plan, meets all of our code, it meets our parking, drainage report has been approved. Bringing it to you guys for approval.
So if the 48-foot delivery truck pulls in, I'm assuming the expectation would be they would drive around the building and then out. Incorrect?
Letting up.
I'm just asking because
Have you ran a auto turn on this?
I don't think they have, sir.
Maybe tight.
I'm just saying, I mean,
I
I
don't
have a
know.
big truck and I'm already worried.
You got a lot of room in the back there.
See, there's 2 ingress egress areas.
You could leave here too, though.
Come out on Monroe.
Okay, I didn't see the one. Okay, I didn't. see
Could you
that.
not come out on Monroe? Yeah. Right there.
Yeah, so there's an access.
So, right?
Centerton Boulevard and Monroe.
Okay.
And there is
Yeah.
a shared access easement plan for the development.
Thank you.
All right, I was like, wondering if they would park on Monroe, so, all right, thanks.
Donna, can you refresh me on the residential screening? Cause I only showed 3 trees back there.
6-foot fence counts.
The neighbor's 6-foot fence?
Yes. I'd already commented on a past review, but there's an existing fence on that property line.
There's also some shrubs on the southern side as well.
So how do y'all do your landscaping plans? Because you have 1, 2, 3, you have 4 different tree types listed for each. Like A, down at the very bottom, and then when you go up to the Legend. Says white oak, red oak, sugar maple, or red maple.
Can you stipulate different? Trees, like, could we do like one tree and then one shrub or whatever, what, I'm not.
No, I was just wondering what y'all are gonna plant back there.
Yeah, it looks like they have it as canopy tree and then it
You
could
can
be.
pick from the four.
Yeah, those appropriate.
And the same thing with each of the lettered shrubs. and-
So what type of, okay.
Any additional questions or comments from any of the commissioners? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion for development 2205, I'm sorry, 2209 Domino's Pizza Large Scale Development.
I'd like to make one note. I think your photometric plan could be correct. You're missing the light on the northeast or northwest island. It's not shown on the photometric plan, but the site plan shows it. Right when you're coming in off the shared drive, the drive it goes south, straight from there, that first landscape island. Right there. You have a light shown on your site plan, but it's not modeled. You want to look at that? All right. With that, I'll make a motion to approve development 2209.
Comment yet?
Oh,
Well, just a second, absolutely. I was wondering what y'all were here for. I was about to ask, so. What? It's not a public. It's not open. Everything's open. Okay.
My name is Robert Harris, a resident of Centerton. And in fact, can we put the slide up that had the general plan of the site? It showed the location and stuff. Okay. The trash is here and I live here. Okay, so that's objectionable. If it could be moved up here, that'd be great. Dumpsters, especially at food locations, restaurants always get nasty. I don't know who's enforcing what they can put in there in the dumpster, but it usually doesn't work. So that's my one objection to the plan. And I don't know, I'm getting ahead of your agenda or not, but the lighting plan is of a concern to us too. Because the post office is just right across the street also on Monroe. And they put in new lights shortly after we moved into that house. And the new lights are bright. And they're further distance from our house than Domino's is, so.
that's why.
About that.
That's why we asked them to do that photometric plan, if you could pull that up. And we require no light intrusion off of their property, so they can install cutoff shields on those lights.
That'd be great.
That's what they're showing on this plan.
Red show.
Okay.
I completely understand you. I bought a house, didn't have a light in the front yard, and then when I moved in, the Carol came through and put a street light in my front yard right into my bedroom. I understand.
Did they leave the pole there when they got final?
They mentioned the widening of Highway 102, which I'm looking forward to. My own experience with the widening road, Razorback Road at the university from Martin Luther King up to Maple Street. One of the early actions on a road widening project is relocation of utilities. And I was wondering if the planners here had accounted for putting the utilities where they'll be behind the easement already and won't have to add to the workload of relocating utilities when
Everything-
102 is widened.
Everything should be accounted for.
Okay.
Matter of fact, when we looked at the harps a couple weeks ago, we had a great debate around how to locate some things there because it's at a roundabout and some other things. So we're even looking at, that far out and it'll actually change once the roads widen. So yes, we do try to take into account, what we know or what we anticipate in regards to the roads. Yes.
I think the only item that hasn't been is the sign. But the survey only shows a water and a sewer line in there. The sewer line's likely okay in that position where it's at. And the water line would move 10 feet beyond that sewer line. And more than likely be okay.
They're both behind the ditch, so I'm not sure how much they would move. I'd have to see the plans from
Right.
RDOT.
And what's the timeline on that? Because Donna said very shortly.
Well, shortly as in,
At the
In
speed
the
of,
next couple.
Shortly as in RDOT.
as in the speed of government, it's. so
It's
long,
being
it's not-
done.
The speed of state funded roads.
Well, that leads me to a question. Is the requirement on the frontage a 10-foot sidewalk?
Yes,
So are
Yeah.
they presenting a fee in lieu for the remainder? I mean, I know that's no benefit to them. I understand what you're trying to do, but what if something happens and that road never comes through?
That section, yeah.
That's. I don't see how the road doesn't get done with where they are in plans and everything else.
Oh, you've seen plans.
Yes.
yes.
30% plan, so it's only,
I've
seen very
I've seen 30%.
so that's as far as they've got.
Okay, I was just bringing it up to think about. I just wanted to say it.
So Josh, can you take a look at the dumpster? To see if it can be relocated? I was thinking, and I know there's a turn, but I wonder if, where the red's right, oh, stop, right there, if maybe you could do an angle in those two parking spots or something like that, and then open up two parking spots in the back. So maybe they could just pull in directly, something like that, but because then they're not trying to turn where the cars are at, so
Yeah, I got you.
maybe take a look
The
at
other-
it, could be there.
And then you can move those parking spots.
As you're moving it further away, they smell, but now you're also doing the face of the dumpsters are now facing those. So if they're left open or anything, you'll see the dumpsters where on this way, they are screened with the fencing going around.
How are they screened?
Just being an enclosure is what
It's
you're.
a dumpster enclosure, so it's a screen rear. Yeah, so this is the rear, it's already enclosed. Right around the dumpster, there's a dumpster enclosure, not just the one from the rear. So this way, if you move it there, the gates are gonna be facing that fence rather than. And it pushes it 30 feet away, but not the gates are.
You're more worried about the smell than you are the.
Smelling the animals.
Critters, you know, that might. Smell the pepperoni over there has been thrown out. It's more important than like what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, because it looks like you had a screen there behind the trash, I mean, behind the dumpster. So the proximity is an issue, depending on which way the wind's blowing, I guess, but, you know, possums, so further away, raccoons and critters and things.
And if you, I didn't look, I don't have your detail for your dumpster enclosure, but I would prefer the same deal where it's taken from the front with the, you know, the gate or whatever. Are you doing a CMU like?
I want to say so, I looked at the plans earlier today. I believe most of the elementary do ours.
And I mean, another benefit. It's still for the most part gonna be screened by the building from traffic. But another benefit would be for the workers. I mean, they'd be closer to it. They wouldn't be dragging stuff all the way across the parking lot.
It's CMU and then brick on top like that.
What's the front, the gate,
It's gate, that's tube frame.
just wooden slats?
Thought we've gotten away from wooden slats.
Metal box rib panel.
For this.
Oh, Metal rib panels? Okay, all right, cool.
That help you out?
Yeah, it does. I had just one other question, and that's due to my ignorance. Another item underneath this project is adjacent street agreement. Well, I'm asking, what is that? What is an adjacent street agreement?
Typically on projects, when they develop, they have to bring the streets that they're adjacent to. So in this case, Monroe Street and 102 up to our standards for our master street plan. Well, 102 is owned by RDOT. They really don't do anything. Monroe, I think, is already at the standard.
It is, so this will be things like street lights, sidewalks, street trees, things like that. It puts in writing, when and what they're required to do.
Any kind of updates in the public right?
That's all I have. Thank you, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Anything else from staff or the commissioners?
So Joey made a motion You have to now change what you were gonna make your.
Did I make my motion?
You made a motion, but no one seconded it.
Okay.
Oh, because he jumped in.
Let me,
Yes.
let me
So-
amend my motion. I'd like to amend my motion to include the relocation of the dumpster just north across the drive. And then any outstanding comments be addressed before final approval.
2 new ones with the dumpster and the pole over this.
Yeah. Pretty low.
John, second.
Motion and a second. Is there anyone opposed? Thank you and good luck.
It's 10 minutes off my delivery time.
I'm just glad I live on the north side of town. We can't get Domino's.
What?
It's no, if you call and beg on the right day or night, you might. Where I'm at, not where I'm at.
We'll deliver to like the front gate. Keep going.
No, it's, don't get us started.
Just some Little Caesar's business.
I can explain that later.
All right,
Oh, way down there?
I need a motion to table development 2205 for the developer.
So move.
Second.
A motion by Devin and a second by Joey. Is there anyone that's opposed? This, we did make a change 2 years ago to approve the election of our planning commission officers to 2-year terms. It is now that time for us to re-elect our commissioners, our officers for the next 3 years, which is the geez, it's one of those days. So it'd be my term, Joey's and Devin's.
Is it 3 years or 2 years?
2 years.
You said 2 and 3.
Sorry, it's a 2-year term, is what we elected instead of having to do it each year. And so
I nominate the 3 existing. Recommend no change.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to maintain as we are.
Unless said officers do not want.
Are y'all gonna, I mean, you
Is
agree?
there anyone of the current officers that does not want to be reelected?
No.
Okay, so a motion and a second to maintain the current officers. We have a motion and a second. Is there anyone that's opposed? All right, thank you, guys. On the announcements, the next council is the 13th. The PC meeting, our next planning commission meeting, sorry, is 1-3. So if you're not going to be here, please make sure you let us know. You guys should have received an email. I'll see you before then, but just make sure it's on your calendar for the 24th. The request of one of our council members to do a work session with us again. And so that's been scheduled for the 24th at 6 o'clock. Just make sure that that's on your.
Is there an agenda for that?
We're working on we're working on an agenda. I think a little bit came out, but I think we need to refine just to make sure.
Haven't-
Yeah, so
Maybe like we could have a representative from municipal league or somebody that could. Northwest Regional Plan.
Yeah.
You looking for like a mediator?
You haven't been watching the.
I've been to the last one, Todd, and I second that.
All in favor?
yes. We have another announcement. Oh, we're done. No more announcements.
Yes, staff does have one announcement. Sadly, Donna has accepted a job in Fayetteville. So her last day will be January 6th, 2023. So she will be at the next planning meeting. We're very sad to see her go. She's been a great asset to the planning department and great, but can't say I blame her because she lives in South Fayetteville, so
It's a long drive.
yeah, it's kind of a crummy commute, so she will definitely be missed.
Have cake at the next meeting.
So,
There you go.
with all your monopole cell towers down there.
And the position is open and it is posted on Indeed, so we are currently looking for.
Okay. We'll see you guys before Christmas. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that good stuff.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, gentlemen.
And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Is anyone opposed?
Alan, are you the recorder tonight?
Okay, let's
Are
see.
you the recorder?
The combination.